Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this viewing party was for Drag Race Season 18 Episode 10, and the guests this week were Jane Don't and Kenya Pleaser. So today we're going to be talking about Jane Don't exposes Discord Addams for breaking the rules and reveals something shocking that production did backstage. Briar Blush reveals that she tricked production by stealing from set. And Jane reveals an off-camera conversation she had with Discord about whether the queens were mad at her. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. And if you like these videos and want to get the weekly Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama, make sure you subscribe so you're always up to date with the latest tea. So they started out by saying that Kenya was running late because she had issues with her flight being delayed, and so she would join them later. They then said that Jane Don't is now top 7, so did she see that for herself when she came into the competition? Jane said she definitely did come into the competition thinking she was going to do well, so it does feel correct. They had also mentioned Darlene Mitchell, and some queens were surprised that she was still there. Jane said that she and Discord Addams were maybe the only ones who saw Darlene from the start, because at the beginning of the season, some queens didn't think that Darlene would go far. Jane said she didn't want to name names, but then the others said that she should. Jane then said, quote, "Well, Mikey ranked her last for the talent show. Nene and her didn't really get along for a second. A lot of the girls didn't really see it." But Jane said the style of drag Darlene does has not been showcased on Drag Race in a while because she is giving you, quote, full waka waka. She added that this is not meant as a read, but Darlene is so unafraid of being truly herself and doesn't care what the others think, and there's a lot of bravery in that. And Jane understood Darlene's drag right away, because Darlene's drag reminded her of a lot of queens that she grew up with in Seattle. They then watched the reading challenge from this week's episode, and they asked if there were any reads that did not get shown. Jane revealed one of her reads that did not get shown was, quote, "Darlene Mitchell is so white that Athena tried to snort her in the bathroom," and everyone laughed. Jane added that she thinks everyone did decently in the reading challenge apart from Juicy. And apparently about 10 minutes before the reading challenge, Juicy asked Jane if she could help her to, quote, punch up some of her reads. But when Jane looked at what Juicy had prepared, she joked that they would need to be totally rewritten and they didn't have time for that because they were so bad. They then watched the main part of the episode where the queens had to do a design challenge using materials that one of the eliminated queens left behind. And Jane Don't chose Ciara Myst suitcase. At first, Jane was happy because it looked like she got lots of fabric to work with, but then she realised they were all scraps of fabric and had huge holes in them. So Naysha asked Jane how she felt in that moment. Jane explained that it's now been a year since this happened, so she's had time to reflect on it, so what she has to say is, quote, "Touché, Ciara Myst, she did get my ass very fiercely." Jane then joked that she hopes Ciara, quote, rots in hell, but she said that was just a joke and she and Ciara have talked about it now and they're good. Jane added that it probably was karma because she was being really cocky that day and they didn't show it, but Jane walked over to Darlene in the workroom and said, quote, "Third win, here we go, are you mad?" And then Jane unrolled the fabric and realised it was all scraps. Caramel then said, given that Jane has spoken to Ciara about this, what was Ciara's plan for the fabric? Jane said Ciara maintains that she had a plan and she was really thrilled to get to work with a bunch of scraps because she was going to make a, quote, sickening space gown, but they all just said, quote, sure girl. Also, my Patreon member Emmy contacted me and let me know that there was some tea about this which Ciara posted on social media. After the episode came out, Ciara posted an Instagram story which said, "POV of me rolling up with scraps of fabric to just figure it out when I get to Drag Race." Then in the next story it showed her walking away and the caption said, "Them, actually we are gonna give this to the girls who are still in the competition, me fleeing the scene of the crime. So from the sound of it, Ciara thought that the fabric that the queens brought was going to be used by themselves. I also saw that Ciara posted a grid post on Instagram, which had quite a lengthy statement with the title, "Was it Sabotage?" I won't read the whole thing, but basically Ciara said she didn't spend lots of money on fabric when she already has fabric at home, and she had a plan on how to use it. And even though she and Jane may not have seen eye to eye during filming, they are cool now and they respect each other, so please don't send hate to anyone. There was also another bit of behind the scenes tea about the fabric situation to do with Briar Blush, and Jane did mention this briefly at Roscoe's, but Briar has talked about it more fully. So Briar posted a TikTok video after the episode came out where she revealed that she actually stole fabric from Drag Race and then made out as though it was her own that she brought. So here is the full story that Briar told.
So I have to confess something, and I feel so bad for Mikey for doing this to her. So when we were getting the list to prepare for the season, like, it just said party couture materials and nothing could be done. Like, there was no pattern cutting. You could only bring your fabric and your embellishments. That's it. That's what that category was. And so I kind of forgot about it because I knew that it wasn't for me. Like, why else would I be bringing fabric that I can't do anything to yet? Anyways, so I knew it wasn't for me. And so I just didn't think about it until literally the morning that I'm leaving. I just shove whatever sparkly fabric I had just like left over in my fabric section of my apartment, in my carry-on actually. And during the girl group challenge, they were actually collecting the fabric. They're like, hey, we need that party couture material fabric, like, give it to us. And I was like, because I only brought that one sheet of fabric, which would not have been enough for like an outfit really. And so they wheeled out fabric for us to use for the girl group challenge. If, you know, we wanted to, we could use it to make like matching outfits or whatever. And so what I did was I went up without them looking and I stole like the stretch fabric and some tulle or whatever. And then I folded it up and I put my sparkly fabric on top and I handed it to the Drag Race producers, and I said, here you go. This is the fabric that I definitely brought from home. And they're like, thank you. So the fabric that she used was actually already Drag Race fabric that was already there.
Going back to Roscoe's, Jane said she thinks a lot of the queens realised that their fabric was going to be given to other queens, so they just didn't care, and they were trying to, quote, get the girls together. Jane said Athena's fabric was, quote, dog bleep, which was a plot, and apparently Athena later admitted it to them. They then got to the moment where Jane accidentally called Ciara Crystal, and the queens started joking about Crystal being the secret 15th contestant. Jane said, watching this back, it looks like a lot more fun on camera than it actually was because she was so stressed in this episode. But also, this was the week after the Rusical, which in Jane's opinion is the most labour-intensive challenge. Because what you don't see is they have to rehearse the Rusical a lot of times, and they also film it multiple times, so it's very intense. This meant that by this episode, all the queens were exhausted and, quote, really, really on the brink. It was bad. They moved on, and Naysha brought up that at the beginning of the season, Jane was coming across as a bit grumpy, but also getting upset that she was winning, and how the others would perceive her. So she asked Jane how she felt about the edit. Jane joked that don't you know it's hard to win things, and that Naysha would not know what that feels like, and they all laughed. But Jane added that it's true that she is a bit grumpy sometimes, especially when she's not had enough sleep. But the thing that's not making the edit are some of her redeeming qualities, such as helping all of the queens in every challenge. For example, Jane shared that in this challenge, she was the one who came up with the idea for Mikey to do an après-ski look, because Jane had been watching season 10 in her hotel room and remembered that Ms. Cracker had done something similar in her design challenge and that it looked cool. And because Mikey is from Florida, she didn't know what après-ski meant, so Jane had to explain it to her. Also, Jane was the one who told Nene to use the orange fabric to make a catsuit for underneath underneath to make her outfit look better, and she also wanted Nene to make a big hat to go with it, but they didn't have time. So she said that she helped out a lot of the girls, even though it was shown, but she understands that it's a reality show, so they only want to portray people in a certain way. She also said that she had a relationship with the other queens where they trusted that she would always tell them the truth, which is why the queens always came to her for help. They moved on and talked about the drama in this episode to do with Discord using lots of safety pins in her outfit, which a lot of queens felt was against the rules because they were not in her suitcase. But Discord tried to claim that they were used as part of the construction, so it was okay. And Naysha asked the others how they felt about it. Batty and Ciara said it was a bit like the rhinestone situation on season 17 when Lexi complained to production that Hormona Lisa had used rhinestones on her outfit even though she had brought them from home, and Hormona was made to take the stones off. But it also later came out that Susie Toot had also used her own rhinestones on her headpiece, but she got away with it. And I did talk about this in more detail in a previous video, which I'll link to in the description. And while we're on the subject of Hormona, I did see outside of Roscoe's this week that after the episode came out, Hormona seemingly referenced the situation with Discord and the safety pins. Hormona tweeted saying, "Did anyone stand over Discord and scream at her over those safety pins?" And Discord replied to Hormona and said, "No, they waited till they were in front of Ru." So going back to Roscoe's, Naysha asked the others how they felt about Discord and the safety pins. Ciara said the safety pins were not in the suitcase provided, so they have to call it out. Naysha said that a glue gun is also not in the suitcase either, but you need that to put your outfit together, so you could make that argument about the safety pins. But in Naysha's opinion, because the safety pins are exposed and are used as part of the aesthetic of the look, in her opinion it's a no-go. And if they were hidden it would be fine because it would be purely for construction, but they were not. They asked Jane how she felt about it, and Jane said, quote, "I think she tried it," and everyone laughed. Jane said she normally wouldn't have cared, but what changed it for her was that Darlene had specifically asked about boning to dangle things off her outfit, a bit like the corsets made by designer Abram Levy, and I think this is the type of thing that Jane means, but I might be wrong. But when Darlene asked if that was okay, production specifically said no, because that would mean that you're not using the boning as boning. So whatever they provide the queens in terms of sewing supplies, you have to use them as they are intended to be used. Jane said that this was a conversation that happened in the room and they all heard production say that, so she felt like Discord was, quote, willingly bending the rules, and I do think you tried it. Jane also added that the safety pins were definitely a design feature and not just for construction as Discord claimed, and Jane said not all 800 of them were holding up the outfit. They then went through the runway looks in more detail. When they got to Discord's look, Batty Davis said she would give it a chop because that red was not in the suitcase because it was yellow. Jane then spilled some major backstage tea and said that Discord put on a red catsuit underneath her outfit, and the producers came over and said you can't wear that because it's not part of the design. But the reason that Discord ended up with thigh highs and gloves is because production literally cut the catsuit off Discord's body underneath her dress. Jane added that when Discord first put on the red catsuit, the others said, "I don't think you can do that because it's not part of the design." But production allowed her to wear it as long as they were only thigh highs and gloves because they would be considered undergarments. But production literally cut the rest of the catsuit off, presumably using scissors, because it was not allowed. Ciara joked that production were really not playing around. Jane said she does like Discord's look, but she thinks that Discord, quote, broke the rules. Naysha said Jane was being nice about it and said that Discord's outfit was a chop, but she's going to give Discord her 10s for trying to cheat, and everyone laughed. And Naysha thought it was great that Discord tried to pull this off even though she didn't. They also mentioned Juicy's runway, and Jane shared that Juicy was wearing Jane's wig from the talent show and joked that this is proof that she is a nice person. Also, on an unrelated note, at one point, Naysha made a joke and said their food had just arrived, so don't grab a tissue from the table, and everyone laughed. Just to explain in case you don't know, last week Athena was one of the guests at Roscoe's, and at one point Naysha had used a tissue to clean her nose and then put it down on the table, and Athena then unknowingly picked up the tissue and used it to dry her tears.
Sashay away.
Thank you for this opportunity and for this world you've created for all of us. I'm eternally grateful. May your Prosecco always be on ice.
This clip then went viral on social media, with people saying that Athena used Naysha's quote, snot rag. But going back to this week's Roscoe's, and Jane shared that she thought that after everyone said Discord's name when they asked who should go home tonight, she thought Discord was definitely going to be in the bottom. Naysha asked who else would have been in the bottom with Discord, and Jane said probably Juicy, because the judges criticised Juicy's shoes a lot more than what was shown in the edit, and the judges said things like, quote, "They're ugly, we hate that," and apparently they really went in on Juicy's shoes more than they showed. Kenya Pleaser then arrived and had come straight from the airport, so she was out of drag, and everyone clapped and cheered for her. Kenya didn't stay for long because she had to go and get in drag ready for the performance later at Roscoe's after the viewing party. But one thing Kenya did share is that her design challenge look for this week was based on her entrance look because she already knew she could make a quote sickening pant. And Kenya said some queens try and do something different and it usually doesn't work out, so she decided to just stick with something that she knew she could make, and it was also a good chance for her to prove that she can sew. They moved on to Untucked for this week, and Discord was clearly in her feelings that all of the queens said that she should be the one who goes home, but Discord didn't really say much about it in front of the queens, and she only really talked about it in the confessionals, so there was not really any drama. Jane said she can understand why Discord would be upset and it's a stressful situation, but Jane said on Drag Race, your job is not only to be a good drag queen, but also to be a good TV character, so she wishes Discord would have actually said what she was thinking in front of everyone to quote wake it up, but also it would have made the episode more interesting. But she said that it's all water under the bridge now and they're all good friends. Jane also said, to Discord's credit, she was not crazy in thinking that some of the queens were coming for her a bit, because after the Rusical, there was a vibe that some queens thought that Discord should have been in the bottom instead of Juicy. And apparently, although the queens are not supposed to talk off camera, Discord came to Jane after the Rusical in the bathroom and said, I know you'll tell me the truth, so do you think the other queens are mad at me for not being in the bottom? And Jane told her she doesn't think anyone is mad at Discord because it's not her decision, but they did think that, no shade, the Juicy Athena lip sync felt a bit, quote, suspicious. Naysha said it felt produced, but Jane said that she'll just say suspicious because she doesn't want to get a call from production. They moved on to the Q&A, and Caramel mentioned that a short while ago, Jane posted on Instagram saying that she would be addressing some, quote, disturbing allegations against her, and this caused a lot of speculation. But Jane later posted a video saying that queens like Bob the Drag Queen had said that Jane was annoying, so Jane said that she was addressing the allegations that she was annoying and was selling merch. I did talk about the full situation in my last video, so go check that out and I'll put a link to that in the description. Jane explained the reason why she did that and said every time she went on live, people would say to her things like, have you heard what Bob said about you? But Jane said she doesn't watch any of the review shows because she values her mental health. But people kept sending Jane clips of Bob and others calling her annoying, so Jane decided to address it. She said it reminded her of back when All Stars 2 was on and everyone was calling Alaska a, quote, snake after the decisions that she made on the show, and they kept leaving snake emojis in Alaska's comment section. So Alaska came out with a song about snakes and also wore snake print as a way to respond to say, yes I am. And that's what Jane wanted to do, and she said she is annoying, but so what? And finally, when they were doing the shoutouts at the end of Roscoe's, Naysha said thank you to everyone for coming and said, quote, "We're grateful for our sold out audience every single week. Keywords sold out, because you know, some girls be begging to be on this show and then they say," and then Batty stopped her and said, "Not too much." Jane then jokingly said, quote, "Hey, Gia Gunn is a nice lady," and Naysha said that she be trying her sometimes. For those of you who don't know what this is in reference to, at last week's Roscoe's, when they were live during the Q&A section, apparently Gia Gunn made a comment on Roscoe's live and said that Naysha and Batty looked like two men, even though Batty is trans. Naysha then called out Gia, and Gia later posted a response where she said that no one was going to the Roscoe's viewing party. And if you want to know the full story about that drama, go and check out my last Roscoe's recap, which I'll link to in the description. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for Season 18, Episode 10. Do you think that Discord's safety pins broke the rules? And do you agree with the fact that there was no elimination this week? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to watch my videos before they go on YouTube, as well as see the things that I cut out of my Roscoe's recaps, as well as other exclusive content, please check out my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month and it really does help support the channel, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to all of my amazing Patreon members. I really do pinch myself all the time thinking about how lucky I am to have all of you supporting me, and it really does make a huge difference to the channel, so thank you all so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And please make sure you subscribe. It's free, it only takes 2 seconds, and it really does make a big difference to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.